Interview.
Hey everyone, Sophia here in San Francisco at an EA Sports event. I'm joined by Todd Batty, creative director on the new SSX. Hey, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
All right, so I noticed the first thing is that there's no subtitle this time. The last time you guys announced the game, Deadly Descent, so what happened there?
We kind of took a look at it and, like we've said, 3 pillars that this game is being built upon: race it, trick it, survive it. So we have race descents, we have tricky descents, and we have deadly descents. We thought by sort of putting deadly descents on top of the game title, it really narrowed everything and made it feel like that was all the game was, when it's really, in reality, more like 1/3 of the game. So we just decided SSX, it's broad, it speaks to it a little bit better.
Yeah, that's true. You just went through a lengthy presentation about all the 3 pillars, and there's this new survival mode. Could you talk a bit about that?
Sure. When we say survival mode, people get really freaked out and they think oh, are you guys going to have people shooting and killing people? And like we said, it's really more indicative of sort of where the sport has evolved to. If you look at SSX and the original SSX, SSX was actually a precursor to Bordercross even being in an Olympic event, and so. The sport of snowboarding has evolved since then, and people are doing really incredible, crazy things out there. I keep getting YouTube clips sent to me that I just are bananas. And so we thought, it would be pretty cool to wrap a game mode around that, just to give people an alternate type of gameplay so you can still race and you can still do trick events, but what would it be like to try to get down the mountain alive? Meaning, don't fall off a cliff, don't get buried by an avalanche, don't have a falling rock, fall on top of your head and kill you. And it's really more about that, and it's not deadly serious, and it's not about celebrating death. It's really more about sort of providing a different gameplay objective that just adds depth to the franchise.
Yeah, I think that's what fans were initially worried about. But now that you mentioned that there's the initial SSX stuff coming back, can you talk a bit about what's familiar and what fans should be expecting?
Yeah, I mean, I think SSX, if I look at SSX, even as a fan, I think, the foundation upon which SSX was built was an amazing racing game. And, SSX can do things in the racing genre that driving games can't do, in the fact that we go airborne and we can jump over cliffs and we can do, SSX was one of the founders of sort of tricks equals boost type gameplay and giving you that sort of fundamental decision as a player. Do I want to just try to beeline it down the mountain really fast, or do I want to take the time to do a bunch of tricks, but then that will give me boost? And giving you that sort of multiple ways to get down the mountain really fast was an incredibly deep experience that, lots of games have mimicked since then. And then on the trick side of things, it's interesting, we spent a lot of time talking with people who worked on past SSXs, and the dev team of the original SSX said that they thought that they were shipping a racing game, and then when players got it in their hands, they turned it into a tricks game, and it was really the trick stuff that really gave people that opportunity for sort of self-expression. Around that era, Tony Hawk, SSX, those were the original party games. I know the living room game where you could just try to always best your friend, and so we're bringing those both back in a really big way.
Yeah, speaking of the regions, what kind of tracks are we racing down on?
Well, what we developed in an early day was sort of a proprietary tool that we call Mountain Men. And what we started with was we downloaded topography data of the entire planet Earth from NASA. And what that gave us was this incredible starting point where we could basically generate any mountain in the world in a matter of seconds. And then we could spend all of our time, instead of sort of building the core mountain and all of the vistas and everything itself, we could spend all of our time actually manipulating the gameplay experience. So we're going to take you everywhere from Alaska to the coastal Rocky Mountains to Antarctica to the Caucasus Mountains to the Alps. We're going to take you all over the world, 18 major mountain ranges on planet Earth, 70 odd open mountains within every one of those mountain ranges, and then hundreds of drops on every one of those mountains.
Yeah, thanks NASA. So could you also talk could you also talk a bit about the characters, who's returning, any new faces?
We're going to follow the same formula SSX has always followed before, which is we're going to bring back a mix of some returning characters, and we're going to actually introduce some new characters into the SSX universe. So the only character we've committed to at this time as a returning character is kind of the no-brainer. We're going to bring back Elise. We showed her to you today. And then what we're actually going to do, I think this is a really neat idea, is we're just going to reach out to the community. We're starting a poll on our Facebook site of, we're going to ask the community who do they want to see back. So if everybody wants Mac back, we'll bring Mac back. If everybody wants Simon or Kaori or whoever it might be, we have a pretty good idea of who those characters are going to be, but there's a few questions in our head about which ones, and then we've been working on who are some new characters we can introduce, what kind of personalities can they have, and how can they add something new to the universe.
The fans need to get out there and start voting.
Absolutely.
And so the social aspect of it, you kind of teased it a little bit. What can you tell us about multiplayer online?
So I would love to tell you about what we're going to do with online and multiplayer. We're saving that right now. All I can tell you is we were very inspired by what sort of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit did with Autolog, how they started to bring, the ability to sort of compete against your friends, whether they were there or not, into the equation. And we're going to blow that out in a way that's really just going to change the way people interact with our game. It's going to be really neat.
Great. So my last question, when's the game coming out and on what platform?
Coming out January 2012 on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
And that was our look at SSX. Now, be sure to check back on GameSpot.com for more coverage.